So you touched upon, your love and your passion for teaching. And I think, one of the ways that you've done this so well is through writing and through your book, actually. So, I'm familiar, and I'm sure several of us have seen or read your book, Uptime. And I know that there's one part of your book that talks about the Uptime Pyramid of Excellence. So maybe it would be great to showcase like what that pyramid of excellence means to you and how you thought about creating that pyramid of excellence.
Yeah, well, the pyramid. To be honest, it's not my creation. My co-author on the book, John Campbell, is the fellow who hired me at Coopers and Lybrand back in the mid '90s, and he actually wrote and published the first edition of Uptime. Now, I did the second and third editions. John and I worked closely together, and the first edition had been written for non-maintenance people. It was really for the production people, that they could understand what to expect from maintenance. And unfortunately, we found out that they weren't the ones buying it. It was the maintenance managers that were buying it, and they loved it. They said, "This is the first time there's a book that tells me what I should be doing." So they were learning a lot from it, but they lamented the fact that it didn't have a lot of depth of detail, how to do things. So John and I agreed we'd put together a second edition and have more of the how-to built into the book. And not long after that, unfortunately, John got sick with cancer and passed away, and sort of left it to me to make my own, so to speak. And it took me a while to get going on that second edition. Quite honestly, I kind of felt like I was messing with my friend's legacy, so to speak. But once I got past that, I kind of took ownership of it, and the pyramid evolved a little bit. It changed a bit from the first edition. It still had the same basic structure, but I put it in terms that were a little bit more meaningful to me, and that I felt I could convey better to my customers going forward. So that's where that pyramid comes from. Now it's in 3 tiers. Leadership is foundational, of course. You're not going to do anything without some sense of direction. And what I've found in my consulting career is that people implementing changes really do have to have very senior level support and sponsorship for it. So active participation from people at the level of, say, VP operations or COO. In one case, I've even had a CFO. In another case, a CEO, very directly involved in the improvement efforts in this sphere, because they recognize the business value of it. If you don't have that underlying appreciation of what this does for the business, your change efforts tend to fall kind of flat. So leadership to me is kind of key. Having a direction, knowing where you're going with it. That's what strategy is all about. Strategy is pretty simple, really. People in teamwork, nothing's going to happen without them. So if you don't have good people, motivated people, knowledgeable people, you're going to get nowhere. Teamwork, I find, is the most effective way. Teams are far more productive than individuals as a rule. They take longer to make decisions, but once they make them, they implement them far better. So teamwork to me is kind of again a foundational element. And we've seen some of the most successful companies, like say Toyota, for example, with their total productive maintenance system. It's all based on teamwork.
Yeah.
The essentials in that second tier are all the things that every maintenance person is familiar with: work management, materials, getting parts. The middle tier, those essentials, are all the things you must do to be really good at maintenance management. And the better you are at these, the more efficient your maintenance delivery will be. So you'll be getting work done better. You won't be repeating work. You'll be getting it done quicker, on schedule. And you'll be collecting data that you can actually use to manage the whole process in a meaningful way. That's where the systems come in. The top tier is about effectiveness, which in my books is all about doing the right work. Now, I live here in Canada, and we're all familiar with shoveling snow off our cars in the wintertime. And there's a YouTube video of a gentleman that comes out of a building. There's cars in front of him, and they're covered in snow. And he proceeds to use his briefcase and his I think a credit card out of his pocket to scrape the snow and ice off the car. And when he finishes it, he reaches into his pocket, pushes the button on his starter, and the lights blink, and the horn sounds on the car in front of the one he just cleaned up. So he did a job as efficiently as he could with the tools he had on hand, but he did the wrong job. So he was efficient but not effective, and that's kind of the way I look at the difference between those. So in the maintenance world, we've got to be doing the right work, and that means in my books, being proactive about the work you do. So a heavy focus on reliability and sustaining it. Not just getting work done, but getting the right work done so that you're actually eliminating failures at their cause, or dealing more effectively with the consequences that come when the inevitable failures do happen. Mm-hmm. So that's at that top level. I put it at the top because without fairly efficient work management practices and processes, you won't be able to get your proactive maintenance program executed on time. And if you don't, you defeat the whole purpose of it. So that's why the two kind of go together. And effectiveness is on the top of that pyramid.